At the outset, I offer my pranams to revered Swami Suddhidanandaji Maharaj, Adhyaksha Advaita Asrama, for allowing me to speak on Prabuddha Bharata, the timeless magazine. My namaskar and pranams to all the eminent speakers and the members of the audience. It's a great moment for us today when this noble magazine, Prabuddha Bharata, has stepped into its 125th year of publication. Such a rare milestone surely calls for a relook at its glorious past. For it is in there where we shall find the greatest motivation to move forward and achieve newer milestones. Let us begin at how Swamiji first came up with the ideas for promoting magazines to assist his mission. It was in the middle of the year 1894. Swamiji was yet to attend the Greenacre Conference at Eliot in Maine. For there he will be speaking first before the Western audience his message of Vedanta. A little before appearing at the Greenacre, in early July, he writes to Alasinga Perumal in Madras. Start the journal. I will send you money from time to time. We must remember, till the end of 1894, the talks and speeches of Swamiji were mostly focused on India, her religion and people. Since the late January 1895, he first wholeheartedly began to teach the message of Vedanta, making New York City his center. After teaching Vedanta for about 5 months, in May 1895, Swamiji again wrote to Alasinga Perumal, "Now I am bent upon starting the journal." He then drew the lines to be followed in this regard. It must not be flippant, but steady, calm, and high-toned. He assured Alasinga, "I will send you money, do not fear work. I will get you many subscribers here. I will write articles myself and get articles written from time to time by American writers. You get hold of a band of fine writers." This had been the story of Brahmabadin, which first appeared from Madras in September 1895. It ran for about 20 years and enjoyed raving reviews ever since the appearance of its first issue. I must tell here, if one looks for the early history of the Ramakrishna order, there is no better source than the Brahmabadin. But despite such success, Swamiji soon failed for another magazine. And this led to the birth of Prabuddha Bharata. Pointing out that profuse use of Sanskrit may benefit the Hindu as well as Western Sanskrit scholars, Swamiji reminded Alasinga, "What does the average Western man know of your Hindu philosophy? Let only one article be scholarly, if you like. The rest ought to be devoid of all Sanskrit terms and written in a very light style. In some of his other letters, we also find references to such stiffness of language in the Brahmavadin. Now, footsteps of Prabuddha Bharata is here in what Swamiji writes to Dr. Nanjundra Rao in mid-April 1896. He writes to Nanjundra Rao, I received your note this morning. As I am sailing for England tomorrow, I can only write a few hearty lines. I have every sympathy with your proposed magazine for boys and will do my best to help it on. Then he elaborated his plan to Nanjundra Rao. You ought to make it independent, following the same lines as the Brahmavadin, only making the style and matter much more popular. As for example, there is a great chance, much more than you ever dream of, for those wonderful stories scattered all over the Sanskrit literature to be rewritten and made popular. That should be the one great feature of your journal. I will write stories, as many as I can, when time permits. Avoid all attempts to make the journal scholarly. The Brahmavadin stands for that. And it will slowly make its way all over the world, I am sure. Use the simplest language possible and you will succeed. Don't make it metaphysical at all. As no business part, keep it wholly in your hand. This letter shows that for the second journal from Madras, Swamiji depended more on Dr. Nanjundra Rao. But he was not alone. Dr. Nanjundra Rao had with him other disciples of Madras to carry on the project. Leading among them was Singaravelu Mudaliar, more popularly known as Kidi. He was the manager of the Prabuddha Bharata in the first 2 years during this period. And had Rajam Iyer with him as the editor. Let us see who exactly these two men were, who so earnestly had involved themselves in bringing out the Prabuddha Bharata. Besides being a successful physician and the chief medical officer of the city of Madras, Dr. Nanjundra Rao had time and inclinations for philanthropic works too. Singaravelu Mudaliar was a brilliant professor of mathematics at the Madras University and considered by many as a mathematical genius. Sometime before the last quarter of 1901, when Singaravelu Mudaliar felt that his end was near, he withdrew himself from everything and came to live cheerfully in the old office of the Prabuddha Bharata, where in the same year he breathed his last in late September. At that time, Kidi was only 46. The third and most notable contributor in the early phase of the Prabuddha Bharata had been B.R. Rajam Iyer, This extremely short-lived man became immortal as the legendary editor of the magazine. He was a graduate from the Madras Christian College and authored one of the earliest Tamil novels between 1893 and 1895, which still is considered as a milestone in Tamil literature. But his spiritual quest took him away from fictional writings. We must remember these three men were drawn to Swami Vivekananda far before he went to the West. Eyewitness report confirms that it had been Swamiji's instant association which radically changed the lives of Singaravellu Mudaliar and B.R. Rajam Iyer. And led them to renounce worldly affairs and devoted them to work for him. Ever since its first number, the Prabuddha Bharata earned admiring reviews in newspapers and journals. Here I may instance only three. When the first number came out in June 1896, the Indian Mirror wrote, "The first number of the Prabuddha Bharata or Awakened India is out. Universalism is the creed of the new journal. The editor says, though an organ of the Hindu religion, the Prabuddha Bharata will have no quarrel with any other religion. For really speaking, all religions are simply different phases of the same truth, different methods of approaching God. What humanity is to man, what existence is to living beings, Vedantism is to religions. The whole has no quarrel with the part." The Maratha of Pune wrote, "We have received a monthly called the Prabuddha Bharata or Awakened India, published in the benighted presidency of Madras. The general get-up of the magazine is sufficiently attractive. A kind of stirring earnestness pervades every page of Awakened India. Even an Anglo-Indian paper like the Madras Mails wrote, the Prabuddha Bharata or Awakened India, a monthly magazine conducted in English, is devoted to the spread of doctrines of Hindu religion and philosophy. The first number, which is now issued to the public, contains a number of interesting contributions. Such brilliant, interesting contributions, of which two are from the pen of Swami Vivekananda. But despite such brilliant men in background and accompanied by other ardent disciples of Swami Vivekananda, no more than 24 monthly issues could be published in its first phase. The writing titled Farewell in the June 88 number of the Prabuddha Bharata reads, "We are forced to stop the journal with this issue, as we find the loss sustained in the premature death of our editor, B.R. Rajam Iyer, irreparable. Two reasons were offered for such unfortunate decision. First, referring to Rajam Iyer, it was mentioned that except the few contributions and the extracts, all the articles were written by him, some under should names. The second reason, referring again to Rajam Iyer, tells, if the articles were pleasing and edifying in a high degree, it was because the writer had himself some realization of the truth. Rajam Iyer was only 26 when he died. His death in May 1898 brought an immediate end to the Prabuddha Bharata after the June 1898 number. In May 1898, Swamiji was in Almora. When he received the news of Rajam Iyer's death, he was greatly shocked. But when he knew that the Prabuddha Bharata will be stopped, he decided to revive it forthwith. For at that time, the magazine was having more than 3,000 subscribers. And perhaps Swamiji decided to make it a mouthpiece of his newly established mission too. In Almora, he had with him Captain and Mrs. Xavier, his two earnest English disciples, who came with him from England to involve them in his work. Besides, Swamiji had for long a wish to open a center in the Himalayas. So he first decided to revive and run the journal from Almora till a new center is opened in the Himalaya. According to his plan, things began to move fast. The office of the Prabuddha Bharata was transferred from Madras to Thompson House in Almora. When it was shifted, Mr. and Mrs. Xavier were temporarily living at the Thompson House. Soon the printing press and other essential materials were brought from Calcutta. Swami Swarupananda began working as the new editor. He had early experience of co-editing the Dawn magazine in Calcutta. Captain Xavier took over the responsibility as the manager of the magazine and bore all the initial expenditure. But things were not as easy as I say before you. For if we just think of the task of taking all those packing cases from Calcutta, containing everything needed to print the magazine at Almora, a place which had only a long and primitive road link with the nearest railhead. And after that, publishing the magazine within a month, we may have some idea of what the task really was. The editorial in the revived number of the Prabuddha Bharata of August 1898 reads, Prabuddha Bharata comes to its readers this month in a new garb. On the demise of its gifted editor, it died a natural death. But now, like a new phoenix, emerging from its own ashes, it returns to the world after but a brief suspension of activity. This editorial had two clear pledges. First, the magazine would not deviate from the lines as had been followed before, except some essential changes. And second, Swami Vivekananda would remain as the head of all those working for the journal. But the magazine had not remained at Almora for long. Soon it went to a new place in the hills, 50 miles east of Almora, at a height of 6,800 feet above the sea level. This new place, renamed as Mayavati, became the center of the Ramakrishna order and sheltered the Advaita Asrama, which officially came into existence on 19th March 1899, on the day of Sri Ramakrishna's birth anniversary. The press was moved there forthwith. The nearest railway station at Tanakpur stands 60 miles off from Mayavati, requiring a 4-day journey on horseback in those days. 3 buildings were already there within the newly acquired property, and with additions and alterations they became ready for use. Within them were housed the asrama, where the monastic inmates lived and worked on the upper floor. Downstairs on one side was the sitting room with the fireplace, and on the other was the press and bookbinding department. The sitting room additionally served as the Prabuddha Bharata office, as well as the dining room. The work had continued in this way for long, till the Prabuddha Bharata press and office moved to its new building opposite to the main ashram in April 1914. Even in 1910, there was only a double-crowned hand press for turning out not only the Prabuddha Bharata but also other printing works. The magazine had a salaried composer. The monastic workers were few. In fact, in more than one winter, when there was usually more work, there were only 3 to manage the entire work of the asrama. This arrangement continued till 1923, when, to improve the printing and quality of the journal, as well as to ensure timely delivery to the subscribers, changes became necessary. Therefore, leaving the editorial section at Mayavati, the publication work was shifted to Calcutta. The pages of the magazines were also increased to 50 by adding 8 more to the earlier issues. Till his untimely death in 1906, Swami Swarupananda edited the magazine with extreme efficiency. Captain Xavier, the first manager of the magazine, had breathed his last earlier in 1900. During the early years of running the journal from a remote hilltop, things frequently became extremely adverse. It had always been the great mother of Mayavati, Mrs. Xavier, who stood as a steady recourse. A most crucial stage had been when Mrs. Xavier had none else but the brahmacharis to carry on the entire work. At this time, Swami Virajananda was asked by the Mott to take over the dual charge of the president of the Advaita Ashram as well as the editor of the Prabuddha Bharata. For 7 long years, he managed this responsibility. During this time, with great support from Mrs. Xavier, the first edition of Swamiji's complete works was brought out in 1907. So also was the first volume of Swamiji's biography in 1913. During this early period, Sister Nivedita also contributed much to the magazine. After the death of Swami Swarupananda, it had been Nivedita who wrote most of the occasional notes in the Prabuddha Bharata, till she remained no more. For this, at times, she even had to leave at Mayavati as the guest of Mrs. Xavier. Prabuddha Bharata has never been in dearth of highly erudite writings, which always have in background the monastic members of the order as well as the distinguished scholars around the globe. During this long period, over a century and a quarter, innumerous leading contributors have enriched the magazine on various fields. This leaves us with an obvious impact of wonder. But why? Why so many great people at different times felt inclined to write for the Prabuddha Bharata? And more so, their efforts were hardly for any worldly rewards. Here lies the timelessness of this magazine, for it radiates the life and message of Swami Vivekananda and his dreams too. And this never fails to inspire people who actively involve themselves in running this magazine to percolate and proliferate the Swami's noble message and dreams to every corner of the globe, and thereby unite all with an unique spiritual awareness. Before I conclude, I would like to say that Swami Vivekananda never dreamed of anything unachievable, nor he planned anything unconnected with his broad scheme of things. The magazine he inspired also qualify these merits. We may remember it had been the Brahmavadin which first carried the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna to the western shore and made Professor Max Muller to ask for more of his guru from Swami Vivekananda. And we know rest is history. Similarly, almost all the Indian luminaries in religion and philosophy, literature, arts and culture, science and technology, history and sociology have for long made it a point to write in the Prabuddha Bharata. So also is true for countless contributors around the globe, missing no continent. Therefore, if we list all the names of the contributors in the last 1500 numbers of the Prabuddha Bharata and notionally connect the places of their origins with a line, we shall get nothing less than the atlas of human thoughts and ideas during the last 125 years. We all are confident that Prabuddha Bharata, while disseminating the life and message of Swami Vivekananda, will always be shining with the best of human thoughts and excellence. And it is as much the responsibility of the Ramakrishna order as the general people in our vast country, and surely even beyond, to make it possible. Namaskar to all again.
Dear devotees, we are glad to inform you all that Prabuddha Bharat has entered the 125th year of its existence. You all know that Prabuddha Bharat is the English monthly journal of the Ramakrishna Order. It is the journal which was started by Swami Vivekananda himself in 1896. Why did Swami Vivekananda start this journal? Swamiji started this journal in order to bring out the universal scientific spiritual wisdom hidden in the Vedas, and in order to make this spiritual wisdom popular not only in India but all over the world. And Swami Vivekananda very strongly believed that it is in and through this spreading of the spiritual wisdom that India can be awakened and the entire world can be awakened. And Prabuddha Bharat, in the last 125 years, has been silently doing this work in a commendable fashion. The spiritual articles published in Prabuddha Bharata has impacted the thinking class of people all over the world, and it has resulted in a silent awakening. But we have yet a very long way to go. We need to promote this journal. We need to get more subscribers. And in order to promote this journal, Advaita Ashrama has initiated this Prabuddha Bharat campaign, a program which is essentially meant for promoting this journal. Now, what is this Prabuddha Bharat campaign? In and through this Prabuddha Bharat campaign, all that you need to do is bring 5 new subscribers for Prabuddha Bharat. That will be an act of great contribution from your side, an act of great punya, a very meritorious act, in and through which you will be helping Prabuddha Bharat grow and also helping fulfilling Swami Vivekananda's vision of spreading the spiritual message all over the world and also in India. So we honestly appeal every follower, every devotee, every admirer of Swami Vivekananda to come forward and participate in this Prabuddha Bharat campaign and bring 5 new subscribers for the Prabuddha Bharata and help Prabuddha Bharat grow. Thank you.